usually train people for whiteboard challenges. So like if you have one coming soon, like feel free to just hit me up offline and I'll help you. But what is that? A whiteboard challenge? It's pretty much just the interviewer they give you a prompt, they give you a Sharpie, and you have a whiteboard and you crack it. So like just like best practices, so like think out loud, ask questions when you're blocked, and assume no cooperation. Assume that you won't get help. When you do a whiteboard, you're like a stand-up comedian. You are being given a Sharpie and you solve the problem. If the interviewer wants to cooperate and collaborate, it's good. But to be honest, in most whiteboard, so it's funny because I would like a lot of time I would be giving as an advice to like, oh, like collaborate with the interviewer. But then in every single time, and that happened like I would say like 7 times where I did these, I would literally be giving her a Sharpie and they would tell me, yo, I'm not gonna help you. I'm just sitting here. And then they'll just sit back and they'll watch me do the whiteboard. And every time I would ask them a question, they will just look at me and they will either tell me a direction, so for example, which user to focus on, or they'll tell me like, it's up to you. And I'll be like, okay, okay. And there are tricks for that. So the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is they don't break the prompt. They don't break down the prompt. And that's, I would say, the easiest thing to do. That's the easiest part of the process. You get a prompt and it's very intimidating because they'll probably tell you like, design an app that does X, Y, Z. And you're like, how do I do that? Like, I don't even have Google. Like, I cannot even do a Google search. So then your goal here, when you break down the prompt, is to generate data, literally to generate insights. And then once you have that, and the goal of all of that is for you to identify all the stakeholders that are involved with the problem and all of the problems. It can be, but the problems also need to be related to the specific stakeholder. So that's also something. And then once you have all of that, narrow scope. And that works with any type of prompt. I was given at some point, like redesign an ATM machine. And to be honest, that's the type of prompt that I like because the scope is just massive. So now I have the freedom to scope. So then every time I go to a point, I scope. It's like, okay, why do you need an ATM machine? Okay, let's scope it. Okay, when do they need it? Is it in Europe or is it in North America? Is it for college student or is it for young adult? Is it for old people or is it for kids? Why do kids need ATMs? Your prompt doesn't work. I'm not gonna do it. So there's like these things where it's like always narrow scope, because the goal is to understand how with this narrow scope the solution is going to differentiate. And yeah, so like generate insights, define success, all of that. And then at the end, you conceptualize a solution. So you ideate, prioritize, user flow, and then you sketch it. So how do you break down the problem? So that's my framework. You can take it. It's yours now. I don't need it. But it's pretty much just like what, who, where, why, how, and when. And that's a very good framework when it comes to scoping a problem. And like here it's like a fancy hexagon framework. So at the beginning, it's like, what are they literally asking you to do? Your what should be the easiest thing. Like, you shouldn't be wasting your time on that. It's like, what do they want? Like, what are you trying to get? What are you trying to get off me, right? You're trying to get a piece of UI that solves that. You're trying to get like an app that does X, Y, Z. There we go. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get a screen or you're trying to get a whole flow. So that's where you actually set the ground of like, okay, that's what you're trying to get. And it's like who? So like, who are the people that are involved in this thing? So that's when like you would literally just like ideate on all of the stakeholder. Sometimes also you will try to get some specific user types. And that's where you would actually try to ideate on the user. But I would say don't go too deep, but it's weird because there's the going too deep and there's going like deep enough. When you go too deep, you'll get lost. But you need to go just deep enough, and I would say that like you need to practice for you to understand what's deep enough for you. So that comes up with practice. So you need to identify your stakeholders. Where location, it depends. To be honest, for me, I like to set locations because it helped me like really understand like, okay, so like where is this solution going to live in? Because the solution that I'm designing for Africa is not the same solution that I'm going to be designing for North America. And depending on even some designs, the solution that I'm going to design for Canada is not the same as the solution I'm going to design in the US. So really scoping it and, having clarity on mind on that. And that's something that you can always reuse when you do when you walk through your project. And then why? So like, what does it matter? So for example, if someone gives you like there's an ATM for kids, why does a kid even need an ATM? And I've heard of interviewers using that as a trick prompt. Oh, the answer is just don't do the prompt. Because why would you design an ATM for kids? They don't need ATMs. So really understanding like the why I should be doing a specific thing. So, and then the how, so that's pretty much how you're going to do it. This one is more or less important. It's more important when it comes to design challenge, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. And then the time. So like this one, it's like, it depends, right? Because if let's say you're being given something that's school related, so like a problem that's like school related, or you're tackling a student problem, there's going to be time frames. So like, it's like, oh, I know my app is going to be used from September to August. So like time, sometimes it's going to be any time, but then sometimes it's also going to be, there's also going to be a time, and that just helps. That sometimes it might be extra, but it just helps to have that just in case, something goes south or you want to scope it when it comes to time. And then after you break it down, you'll get more clarity on the prompt. You'll get all the stakeholders. You'll get like how all the problems I need to solve. And then you'll get also like some additional context, for example, like location and time. And then that will pretty much just help you like move forward when it comes to the prompt. Once you narrow scope, always try to narrow scope. Let's see, I'll show you an example right now because it's easier to show examples of these type of things. So that's a prompt that I started to break down. So that prompt was, that's a prompt that I took from this website called Designer Size. You can literally just generate prompts. It's kind of a funny video game site. You can set times. And that's how people prepare. So what I did is that I actually took a prompt. So like design a sortable list view for a dating app to help musicians. So then I started here by saying, okay, so like who are the musicians? Actually, I started with like, oh, it's like a two-sided app. I have two people trying to connect, hopefully two. And then here you have like, okay, so like who are the musicians? Are they famous musician? Is it Justin Bieber and like Drake? Or is it someone who's emerging or someone who's obvious or my sister who does music? And then it's like connecting with people who want to be musicians versus other musicians. So what you would do is that after you're actually done with your entire like breaking down here, what you need to do is like, you cannot design for everything here because you're gonna get a headache. Like it's gonna be tough. So what you need to do is that you need to go to your interviewer and be like, hey, like I got all of these, these like archetypes of musician that I could design for. So like, what do you think I should go forward with? And sometimes people are like, I like music. So, and I'm an hobbyist. So, design for hobbyists. And then it'll be like, shit, I was trying to do indie, but it's okay. It's okay. So then you just go with hobbyist because sometimes that's the direction that they want you to take because they expect you to do that type of thing. But then sometimes you'll just be like, up to you. And then you'll be like, I like the Hollywood thing. I like the glamour. So, I'll design an app for Drake and Bieber. So then I'll pick a famous musician and I'll pick people who want to date people who want to date these people. And then I'll take North America and, I'll take hip hop and pop. There we go. So now my scope is narrowed. So now I'm going to go to the next thing where it's like, what are the problems of famous people trying to date? They want privacy, they want exclusivity, they want, a bunch of other things. So it's like, okay, now I got a lot of these problems. I could try to solve for these problems, but hey, interview, do you think I should narrow scope a little bit or not? And sometimes be like, up to you. I'm like, okay, I'll just move forward. And it's like, okay, so like what does my solution need in order to be private and be exclusive and be all of that stuff? And to be honest, that's where I like to bring out KPIs, where I define success. And then I convert my success definition into feature ideation, into features literally. So because sometimes it'll be like, oh, for my solution to work, it needs to be anonymous celebrities. And it's like, okay, but like, so that means that like, I shouldn't be showing them their face. I should probably show like a description of who they are. And the app should probably be private, kind of like a Raya. So, there's a lot of things that you can play with when it comes to Whiteboard. But I would say like the key is really to have fun with it. And then there we go. Here, I wanted to do a live example, but I don't have time. So I pretty much show you. And then a good website to practice. So that's pretty much the website that is right here. And then when it comes to design challenges,